Hi, folks. John Hecker here again, the pro at Ripley Country Club in Rochester, New York. Today, I thought I'd take you through the most pressure-packed situation I think a tour player could be. This is teeing off the first hole in the Ryder Cup in the singles matches, which is, match play is very confrontational. It's you against the other player. We like to say we're playing the golf course, but in this case, you're playing the other player as much as you are playing the golf course based on the shots they hit. So this is as much pressure as I think a player can face, except for near the end of the round. So they've been thinking about this all night. You can see the huge crowd behind them. So what I thought we'd do is go through the first tee shots of all the players in the Ryder Cup, and we can kind of see what they do, see what they're doing. Their games are built to do the same thing over and over, try to repeat, sort of like the basketball player shooting a free throw, how they have a routine. As I went through this was the only player who didn't tee it up. He just kind of smacks the ground with his club there. So that's something that I'm guessing that he would do on a regular basis. You and I might want to use a tee, but I'm guessing that's part of his routine, how he does things. The thing that, as I went through this, I was surprised that everybody took some sort of practice swing. You can see he had two smaller swings there, but then they stand behind the ball, so they're picking out where they want the ball to go, trying to visualize the shot. At least that's what the players tell us. And then they're looking at their target a series of times. Justin has his little deal he does in his backswing, and then he just lets it go. So he's doing things in a rhythm. This is how he does each time he hits a shot. As I said, you can see that Roy's going to tee it up here, and the rest of the players will follow suit with that. Was interesting, simple thing that caught me off guard is Roy didn't wear a hat, which I thought, he always did. So there must have been something to that. But you'll see him stand behind the ball like Justin did. Then he'll step into it. And a lot of times the players have these down to the exact steps they do. They'll have practiced it so many times. He's looked at the target once, twice, and then he's going to let it go. Bam, and then he hits it, and they're off and running. So, the only thing that I would guess the players would probably tell you is it's a little easier in the sense that they're not hitting a driver. But having said that, you can, again, getting just a view of the crowd there's a lot of pressure on them, and they've got to be thinking about hitting a good shot, not what the shot is worth. So they're, as I said, kind of like the free throw shooter or even the pitcher in baseball. They're thinking about what they control the ball, so they've got to have a routine that gives them rhythm. So you can see, again, kind of a couple small practice swings. He had the ball teed up quite a bit higher than McIlroy did, but that's probably his style. He's looked at the target a couple times, 3 times, and then he lets it go. And, he's a very confident player. He's had an incredible start of his career here. He's won 3 majors already, and he overpowers the golf course, but obviously he's more than just a guy who's strong. He knows how to play golf. So now Paul Casey, you'll see sort of the same thing, a little practice swing, maybe not at full speed. They stand behind the ball, visualizing their shot. He's picking out, you could kind of see him looking in front of the ball. So when he stood behind the ball, he picked out an intermediate target, something maybe within a yard in front of the ball that goes between the ball and his target, so that he can make sure his club face is lined up correctly. Just like people on our rounds in the golf course, you can see that they'll pick up the tee pretty quick when they know they've hit a good one. So this was the first player not to hit an iron, Webb Simpson. But again, he consults with his caddy a little bit like Justin Thomas did. And then he has his practice swing. So I'm guessing anytime you'd go and watch Webb Simpson play, you would see this exact routine. Again, this is not a fluke. They're working on it. So he must have felt like he didn't line up properly. So now he's looking at his target. He does not use an intermediate target. He's more looking down where he wants the ball to go. And again, he's got that beginning of his backswing deal. And then he hits it. And once they're happy with it, they're picking up their tees. As we all know, as I said, you can tell when a guy's hit a good one. He's picking up his tee and not even watching the ball fly. Okay, so his playing opponent is Justin Rose. Now, Justin Rose, as you saw last week when he won the tournament, he has a very unique deal that he's working on with his swing. And so he'll do that before every single shot, as we saw. And now he's doing just what the other players are doing. He's picking out an intermediate target. He's using his club to find that spot. Then he's making his club face, making sure his club face is aligned properly. Now he looks at his target. And again, you'll see that they'll look at the target a different amount of times. He only really looked once at it. And I've noticed it's pretty much 1, 2, or 3 they're going to use for it. So now this is Tiger Woods. And they'll show the crowd here. I think probably if anybody's got a crowd following him, it would be this guy. So he does the same thing. A couple simple practice swings, stands behind the ball, steps into it here. Looking at his target, it's funny, the more you look at him, you feel like they're all clones of each other there. He's probably the first one who's taken a divot. But as we know from the club twirl, that he's happy with it. So it is, even though they're not hitting a driver, I guess hitting a driver would be the thing that would make it most stressful, in that you'd be trying to hit your longest club. But it does look like a fairly difficult shot. I saw that somewhere on one of these that it was 420 yards, which in the olden days was a long, difficult hole. Now for these guys, it's a 3-iron, 9-iron type thing. So John Rahm, who had not been playing well in the Ryder Cup, at least not winning, but he did win this match, as I'm sure you remember. He's a relatively young golfer, but you can see he's doing the same thing the other players are, standing behind it, looking at his target. So we'll go to the next one, is Tony Finau. Now again, this is a guy who's probably never really experienced this before. So, and anybody who's watched this guy knows that he's super talented and seems to hit the ball an incredible distance for a short swing. But he did the same thing, a couple little mini practice swings, stands behind the ball, picking out his target. And he looks at it once, twice, 3 times. So I'm guessing if you go watch him play, that you'll see the 3 times is his number. He'll look at the target 3 times each time before he hits his shot. So as we're going through this, is just to emphasize, this is the most stress. These guys have been thinking about this overnight. Tommy Fleetwood, who's just played great in this, has every reason to be confident, and yet he's got sort of the same deal going on. Again, I'm guessing you would see the exact same thing. I've heard from sports psychologists that they'll actually take the exact same amount of time in between each shot when they start the routine to when they hit it, so that they've got themselves in a comfortable spot. As I can say, there almost is no exceptions here, and even I was a little surprised going through it. I thought there'd be some deviation between the 24 players. And there really wasn't. So Dustin Johnson's behind it. He's got his 2 practice swings in here. He's picking out where he wants to hit the ball. He steps into it, puts the club behind it. Looked once, looked twice. So they're all clones. They're all doing the same thing. So when you're on the tee, you're worried about where you're going to hit it. So were they. And the way that they developed a repetitive swing, getting themselves on cruise control, was to work on their routine. Ian Poulter stands behind it. You can see he didn't like something there. I'm not sure what he was doing there, but maybe he felt like his ball wasn't, maybe he lines up his ball or something like that. But you'll see now he feels like he's got to start again with his practice swing. So that kind of broke his routine. So now he's got to do his deal with a couple practice swings, getting himself back in position here, getting ready to hit it. So he's looked once, twice. He seems to be over the ball more than the other players. And then he lets it go. And obviously he's happy with it. He picks it up quick. So, I think the pace of it can be a little bit different. So here's Ricky Fowler. He's also going to hit, looks like a 3-wood here. He's behind the ball. They're visualizing his shot. I think he's starting his routine right about now. Looks at his target once. So he only looked once, which I thought was interesting. Most of the players seem to look more than that. Now Sergio Garcia, who's a fabulous iron player, so I'm not surprised he's got an iron out here. He's played in a lot of these. I believe he struggles a little bit in the individual matches, although I think he's done really well in the team matches. So you wonder what's going through his mind here. My guess is he's drawing on positive thoughts. And as I said, you can see the practice swing. He's trying to visualize his line, pick out his intermediate target. So some of them have done that, some of them have not. You can see he's actually moves pretty slow into that spot. So we'll remember he was a fidgety guy. It looks like he's still got a little bit of that. A little bit of that pump of the club. And he seems happy with that shot. That's funny how their reaction are when they're happy at it, that they sort of pump the club, or almost not quite to the twirl extent of Tiger Woods, but something like that. Okay, now we've got Phil Mickelson. So for those of you, who thought Phil wouldn't do it, guess what? Phil's doing the same thing here. He's trying to confirm with his caddy the win. They've announced him. You can see he's got his deal going. I almost looked like he took a deep breath. I know he tries to visualize his shot, and this is in real time, so he's got his routine down. So he did a little more visualizing than the other players. And then he gave it a smack here. I know he feels like this might be one of his last matches, but we'll see. That he seems to find a way. So now probably the hottest player in golf, he won the British Open, Francisco Molinari, and I believe he won 5-0 in the Ryder Cup. Now he took a pretty full speed swing. He was one of the few. When they hold the club up like that, they're holding it over the ball between there and their target and trying to find an intermediate target. Although it doesn't really look like he used it. He's sort of looking out at his target, so it's more of looks like a habit than anything else. But whatever he's doing, he should keep doing. And he knocked it right down the middle. So the next grouping, you see everybody's using a tee, but Justin Thomas. And this is Patrick Reed. And Patrick Reed's a very confident guy. I'm guessing we'll see this with each shot. We'll see kind of the one practice, two practice. That's his deal. He's trying to get himself relaxed. Then they stand behind the ball. So there are no exceptions of people not standing behind the ball, visualizing their shots. You can see they're working pretty hard at looking at their target. Obviously, they have a little bit difference in how many times they look at their target. And, nice rhythmic swing. So, as I said, I think it's always interesting. This is a Tyrrell Hatton, who's tremendous player. First time in the Ryder Cup. You can imagine his nerves got to be jumping around at this point. Trying to figure out how to combat it. But, they're all great players here. So, they've all built this in here. They probably find a way to de-emphasize the importance of the match. The crowd wants you to feel like it's the most important thing in the world, but they've got to find a way to deal with it. So they probably almost in their own minds have to find a way to, hey, look, this is just golf. I'm good at golf. Let's go do it. Versus saying, hey, I got to play great today. I think that they get past that. So that was one of the few players who looked like he really acknowledged the crowd. As we know, Bryson DeChambeau. So that was interesting. Two, like Molinari, pretty fast speed with his swing. So as we note, everybody's behind the ball, visualizing their shots, walking to the side like Jack Nicklaus taught us in Golf My Way. This was sort of the the thing that we all copied. Bang, he lets it go. He struggled in his first match, and I remember the commentator ripping him because he said he played well. And I think in his mind he has to believe that. He had to believe he played well, and maybe the commentator sort of alluded that he lost his match decisively. But now this Alex Noren looked a little bit like what Justin Rose was doing there. You will see that with every shot. So you'll be able to watch some of this on TV now as the tournaments come in to see if the different players do exactly the same thing. And I'm guessing that it'll be incredibly consistent. So it's kind of a unique way of doing Alex Noren. So now we've got Bubba Watson. He looked almost like he was a little distracted there looking out, but maybe he's talking to his caddy. I'm not sure. I can't see a shadow there, so I'm not sure what he was looking at there. He stands behind the ball. Same thing. Got the same amount of waggles, looking at the target. He seemed a little bit quicker tempo, which kind of fits with his style of play. Probably was one of the fastest guys to get up and hit the ball. He even got out of the way pretty quick. Now to hit it off the ground again. As I said, I didn't see too many doing this now. Henrik Stenson is largely noted as the best iron player in golf, so he probably wants it on the ground. You can see he's doing just what every player did, stood behind it. It almost looks like they hit a middle iron. It's funny seeing 419 yards, and that looks like a 5 or 6 iron. So Stenson's known for a little bit of an opening of his hips to start the swing. Bam, he hits it. I was almost surprised he didn't take a divot, but he seemed pretty happy with it as it was going along here. So, we continue to watch. There's a lot of matches here, so you're kind of watching it. So Jordan Spieth, his caddy knows that he likes to wipe his hands, so he's got his towel there, and his caddy knows how important it is now. So, watching Jordan for a while, you can see this is just his deal. He's a little bit fidgety. He kind of cocks his head to the right, looking at his target, more than probably the other players. I think that was 3 times. That's 4 times. This is his style. Bam, and he lets it go. And he's playing Torborg Olsen. And this is Torborg's first try at this, so you can imagine he's relying on his routine too to hit the shot. So he's behind the ball. Again, it's amazing how repetitive it is, really. The guys are really doing the same thing. So this can definitely help you in your own game, trying to get a routine, ignoring the crowd, hitting your shot, and then going, trying to be on automatic pilot. So, you can learn a lot from watching these guys under a stressful situation. Hopefully watching them do this in their most stressful situation will help you with your game. And gives you something to work on the range, maybe outside of working on your swing. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to seeing you out on the course.